Praise the Lord, my dear friends. We are on the 25th Sunday in Ordinary Times, and today in the first reading taken from the book of Amos, we see the Lord condemning a group of people that are living a compartmentalized way of life. Here we see a group of people, probably a group of merchants in their Sabbath prayer. And as the prayers are going on, they are preoccupied with business motives. They are thinking and planning how they can cheat the poor people with false balances or other such measures in order to increase their profit. We see that their spiritual life or prayer life is not making any impact in their day-to-day activities. Sometimes we too can be like that. It's possible that we can be very faithful to our Sunday obligations or family prayers or other practices of piety and so on, and at the same time be involved in a lot of activities that are against gospel values. We too can live a compartmentalized way of life when one area of our life is not connected with the other areas of our life, when our prayer life or practices of piety does not influence the way in which we live or speak and so on. And that is why St. Paul in the second reading says, I desire that men should pray at all times, lifting up the holy arms without anger and quarreling and so on. Of course, it does not mean that we have to sit down 24/7 praying. But every action that we do can be turned into prayer. We may get involved in a lot of activities during the day. We may be busy with a lot of things that we need to do as part of our duty. But everything that we do can be turned into prayer. And that is possible only when we live a unified way of life. When everything that we do is centered around one single purpose. So it's important that each one of us spend some time and think about it and decide what exactly should be that single purpose or motive around which all my activities should be centered. And it becomes clearer when we read the Gospel. In Luke chapter 16, today the Lord presents the parable of the dishonest manager. This parable can actually be a little confusing. We see the manager, when he came to know that he was caught for his mischiefs, doing a few more dishonest activities in order to make sure that his future will be secure. Let us look into this parable. When he realized that the master is going to dismiss him from his job, he called two of his master's debtors, and to the first one, who was supposed to give 100 measures of oil, he said to sit down and to write 50. And the next one, who was supposed to give 100 sacks of wheat, he said to write 80. 100 measures of oil would cost 1,000 denarii, and 100 sacks of wheat would cost 2,500 denarii. When he gave 50% reduction to the first one and 20% reduction to the second one, he is actually giving 500 denarii each discount. There can be various explanations for this. The first one is that actually he was dishonest and he defrauded his master, something that he should not have been doing. The second explanation is that the amount that he discounted was supposed to be the interest that his debtors were supposed to pay. In the Jewish culture, according to the law of the Lord, it was not allowed to give money on interest. And at times, instead of money, oil or wheat also would have been given. Now, when he removed 500 denarii each from both of them, probably it would have been the interest which they were supposed to pay. And so, in this explanation, what he did is not dishonest. Instead, he is taking a decision to follow the law of the Lord. And the third explanation is the 500 denarii each which he removed was his commission, which he was supposed to get from the business. Whatever may be the explanation, one thing is very certain. When he realized that he was going to be removed from his post, he becomes very focused. Until then, he was not making use of his resources for his betterment. He was living anyhow, wasting away the master's property. Now, the moment he came to the realization that his future is at risk, he becomes very focused and he makes the best use of every resources that he has in order to secure his future. And we see the master of the house appreciated the manager. Are we supposed to imitate the dishonest behavior of the manager? No. Instead, there is something that we can learn. Until the manager was caught by his master, he was living a compartmentalized way of life. He was squandering his master's property. He was not really faithful to his duties and so on. But now, his entire life is centered around a single purpose, and that single purpose is to secure his future. That is a kind of determination that we too can learn. Not that we have to be dishonest, but our entire life should be centered around a single purpose. Once we see that our entire life, all the thoughts, words and deeds are centered around a single purpose, then the way we achieve things will also be different. When we look into our personal life, we can see at times we live much below the level of energy that we actually have. We can do much more. We get distracted because our life is not centered around a single purpose. What should that single purpose be? Maybe something like what St. Paul told to Timothy, to be able to pray at every time. We can actually make sure to live a life making every thought, word and deed of ours throughout the day into a prayer, and carefully eliminating every little element that cannot be made into a prayer. When we are able to live this kind of a life, then our life will no longer be compartmentalized. Instead, we will notice that we are living a unified life, and such life will help us to achieve much more, and at the same time will give us much more peace. May God bless each one of us.